Of course I think we can win, and I'm fighting every single day to win.
We've now put forward a plan that... Is that bird worrying you?
Yeah. They're afraid of us. They can see that our movement is growing.
Well, you're not going to have a stand in the Parliament.
Let there be 1,000 lessons learned as far as I'm concerned.
This is the 4ZZZ Break the Election podcast for the Queensland state election in 2024. Hello, and welcome to 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast, just 25 days away from the 2024 Queensland state elections. My name is Alexis Pink, I'm the news coordinator at 4ZZZ, and joining us today are...
Maeve.
And Bella.
who are part of our Z-Lines team. Thanks for joining us today. In this podcast series, we are bringing you up to date with the election and breaking down what's being said and why. So let's start with you, Maeve. What have you got for us?
Awesome. Okay. Queensland state election is heating up with housing, youth crime and public transport at the forefront of the debate. Premier Stephen Miles gears up Labor for a fourth-term bid, whilst David Crisafulli's LNP aims to topple the competition. University of Queensland's Adam Hanna notes the idea that an election campaign will swing huge numbers of votes is not necessarily that realistic. Both major parties emphasise cost of living relief in their campaigns, preparing for a lengthy debate on the issue.
Okay, so people changing their votes. How hard is it to change people's minds on the way that they vote?
I think it's pretty hard. I think that I am very set in my ways, and it would take a lot for me to flip my mindset.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think a lot of people will be going into the election with a bit of an idea of which way they want to vote, and I think it would take a lot to change people's minds.
All right, so does that mean that the Labor government is absolutely doomed at this election?
Part of me fears yes, but I feel like there are people who are very unsure, who might be convinced by something in the next couple of days that will change their mind.
All right, that's fair enough. So let's talk about the sort of issues that might change somebody's mind.
Yeah.
What are the things that really stand out in that particular area? Is there an issue that people gravitate towards?
Youth crime.
Youth crime?
One, yeah.
It's such an interesting area
It
at the
is.
moment.
I think cost of living probably is another big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about cost of living earlier, and it's certainly something that the Miles government has put quite a lot of effort into, but it's not something that David Crisafulli has been shying away from either. We should probably talk about some of those measures. 50 cent fares. What does everyone think of 50 cent fares at this point?
Love them.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, so also Rego. Does anyone know about the 20% Rego discount?
No.
No, I did not know.
No, I
about that.
didn't.
Well, there you go. There's
For
20
cars?
Yeah,
Like-
for cars.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
that's good too, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to see?
I don't know.
So this is where it gets hard because state governments don't have a lot of control
Yeah.
over the cost of living. But certainly the Greens have been talking about a lot of stuff. Things like supermarket price fixing.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
That's quite a thing.
It's big, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been done since World War II.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
okay.
All right, we should probably move on. A news poll published last week is pointing to a significant win for the Liberal National Party in the state election. The news poll's primary vote figures say Labor is on 30%, which is steady. LNP 42, which is also steady. Greens 12%, down 1 point, and One Nation 8%, which is also steady. According to Griffith University professor and election commentator Paul Williams, a result like the one mentioned would see 23 seats change hands between the Labor Party and the Liberal National Party, and may see 2 seats change between Labor to the Greens. Interesting results. That sort of reaffirms your thinking about where this election is going. So I want to ask you a question. Did you come to this conclusion based on the polling, or did you have this conclusion already as the polling backing that up?
I think the polling definitely gave me this opinion. I don't think I even had an idea in my head of what people were thinking until I saw the polls.
Okay, that's fair enough. How about you, Bella? Did you think that the polling was reaffirming your thoughts on this, or the other way around?
I would agree with Maeve, because I also wasn't really sure where people were sitting with their views, and, so I definitely think the polls is where, how I have the impression of who's leading and everything. I didn't have an idea before that.
I'm going to drill down a little bit. Where do you think the Greens are going to win if the polls are right and they're going to win 2 extra seats here, it's going to be inner city seats.
Yeah.
Because that's traditionally where they've won. So we
Yeah.
should probably talk about a couple of those.
Yeah.
Places like McConnell, which is the seat that 4ZZZ sits in, which covers the Brisbane CBD.
Yeah.
And Cooper, which is what used to be Ashgrove, but is now called Cooper, and it covers in the inner northwest of Brisbane. And those are the big ones that have come through. Yeah, you think these are, likely things at this election?
I don't know. Has it happened before?
So certainly the results from the last federal election were quite promising for the Greens. They picked up 3 seats in that election, and all of the seats that we just mentioned are covered by the 3 seats they won at the federal election. The seat of Griffith, the seat of Ryan, and the seat of Brisbane.
I could definitely imagine that happening then, yeah.
So past results predict future results?
Yep.
Sometimes.
Okay. Oh, interesting. We move on to the next one. Bella, what have you got for us?
Queensland's opposition leader David Crisafulli hasn't confirmed if his government would spend less money or deliver a budget surplus if the LNP wins the next election. Crisafulli has promised lower taxes and debt, but hasn't explained how he'll fund these promises. When asked if spending would be lower, he didn't give a clear answer, instead focusing on the government's project overruns. Crisafulli has promised to remove what he calls Labour's patient tax on GP visits, costing about $100 million per year. This has been welcomed by medical groups, but Labour's Treasurer Cameron Dick argues that the LNP would have to cut services like healthcare to pay for these promises. The LNP's shadow treasurer, David Janetsky, also couldn't say if the party would deliver a budget surplus, but emphasised focusing on growing the economy and reducing waste in projects. Overall, there's still uncertainty about how the LNP would handle Queensland's finances if they win the election.
Okay, so what do we think about the way that the government has been handling the finances of the state up to now? Do you feel that they've done a good job that is impacting your lives positively?
I think definitely with 50-cent fares and stuff like that, I have been positively affected.
Yeah, so direct things you feel are going well.
Yes.
How do you feel it's going in housing?
I think they're trying a little bit, but they could definitely do more to help a broader amount of people.
Certainly, government has put a lot into providing short-term solutions to this, finding new places and making them into housing that can be used. It's certainly a good short-term approach, as far as I'm concerned. Are there any sort of thoughts on that?
Bella, do you have any thoughts?
I think we were kind of discussing a little bit before that, as you mentioned, that it seems to be a good start, but that there's a lot more that needs to be done, especially long-term, for fixing those kinds of problems like the housing crisis and homelessness as well.
All right, big question. If you were offered a spot in one of these new housing areas, would you accept it?
I would say no.
Why?
I don't know if this is just a preconceived notion in my head, but I feel like I wouldn't feel safe, or I wouldn't feel like the conditions were good.
Okay, so the Greens have been pushing a very heavy public housing line, and certainly those stigmas around public housing exist.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that. Should the Greens be thinking about not only providing public housing, but also making it a lot safer for people?
Yes, definitely.
All right, interesting. Let's move back to the opposition for half a second. Are you worried about what they're saying about these budget positions? They're saying they'll keep taxes low. They're saying that they'll keep spending low. Are you worried that that will lead to what happened in 2012, where a whole lot of public servants were just up and fired?
Yeah, that is very concerning.
So, does this feel like Newman Mark II to you?
I feel partially yes, but then there's a small part of me that hopes no.
So, could you imagine Crisafulli balancing this budget without public service cuts?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
It's pretty much where I am as well. I am not 100% sure how this could be done, because the vast majority of spending in government is on people.
Yeah.
It's wages. All right, and that's all we have for 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast today. For more updates, you can find us on 4ZZZ in our morning bulletins, Brisbane Line on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at midday, or make sure that you can catch the Pineapple Rebellion at 9am on Friday. If you want to support the project, subscribe to 4ZZZ at 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back tomorrow with more from the state election. Goodbye!
Bye!